Hey guys, it's Aaron here. All right, let's keep this simple. I'm thinking that Jesus probably died in 30 AD. I'll explain why, but I'm also going to keep it real simple. And I'm also going to acknowledge that nobody can confidently, definitively say that he died in 30 AD or 33 AD or whatever. But my speculation right now is 30 AD, and I'll tell you why. The main hinging point of my thoughts now is because Herod the Great was the dude that wanted to kill Jesus in Matthew chapter 2. But then after Herod the Great died, there was 4 successors, okay? And I'll talk about those in a second. And those guys all unanimously started their reign in 4 BC. Okay? So Herod the Great, 4 successors, they all chopped up the land and they took over Herod the Great in 4 BC. In Matthew chapter 2, verse 22, it says that Joseph came back because there was a new sheriff in town. It was not Herod the Great. It was a different Herod Archelaus. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So let me just play you that video that I've got right now. I'll turn my camera around.
After the death of Herod in 4 BCE, his kingdom was divided into 4 parts and ruled as a tetrarchy. The tetrarchs included Herod's sister Salome, who ruled the coastal region of Yavne until her death in 10 CE, and 3 of Herod's sons. Archelaus ruled Judea proper before abdicating in order to marry a non-Jewish wife. Philip ruled Batanea, the modern-day Golan Heights, until his death in 34, and eventually only Antipas was left ruling the Galilee and Perea. It is Antipas who is the second Herod mentioned in the Christian Gospels. In other words, in the New Testament, he is simply called Herod instead of Herod Antipas, which is a bit confusing because he's actually the son of the first Herod who is mentioned, Herod the Great.
Okay, so there's the really cool thing, Archelaus. Okay, so that's the big thing. They all started their reign in 4 BC, and it's unanimous. If you go to all sorts of websites, you're pretty much almost always going to find that those 4 tetrarchs after Herod the Great all started in 4 BC. I'll show you my amplified version as well. Same thing here, Herod the Great. It's got this whole thing in between the Bible. And here's the tetrarchs, Philip Herod, Herod Archelaus, and Antipas. And the other person, Salome. There's basically they divided the land up in 4 parts. My other Bible, my New King James Bible, they've got a little concordance at the back here with some dates, and they put Jesus' birth in 4 or 5 BC as well. So that's fun. But, I'm coming to these dates by studying it out myself, not just looking at this and going, yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, and they're putting Jesus' death in the spring of 30 AD. Well, that's nice. That works out real good. Here's the verse in Matthew 2:2. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea instead of his father Herod, which was Herod the Great, he was afraid to go there. And being warned by God in a dream, he turned aside into a region of Galilee. Okay. So again, there's that chart I made before, and here's some dates over here. But I have a hard time thinking that Jesus died in 33 AD just because there would be a 37-year gap between the death of him on the cross and 70 AD. It just fits way nicer if he died in 30. That would give him 40 years exactly between the cross and the temple. It just fits so nice with biblical typology. 70 AD to 2030 AD, you've got 1960 years. Divide that by 49 and you get 40 Jubilee cycles. Wonderful. We know that Jesus walked around. There was a mention of 40 days in the book of Acts. We know that the book of Genesis, the flood was 40 days. We know that Moses was 40 when he left Egypt. He was 80 when he went back. He was 120 when he died. They traveled in the wilderness for 40 years. We know that David reigned for 40 years. We know that Jesus fasted in the desert for 40 days, etc., etc. There's more 40s in the Bible, but you get the picture. I have a hard time saying that's 37 years old. Also, the Talmud speaks of 40 years leading up to the temple and all the events that came about. It's really hard for me to just say, oh yeah, it was just 37. Like there's not much 37 going on in the Bible compared to 40. So anyway, back to the main point of this video though, it's pretty solid. If you go to all sorts of websites and historical things, these 4 tetrarchs replaced Herod the Great in 4 BC. Now, some sites say he died in 4, and some sites say that he died in 1, but it's pretty much unanimous that all these guys started in 4 BC. So here's my speculation now. And before I show you this, I'm going to go and show you CJ Levick's video, Rock Island Books. All right, so this is CJ Levick's just video that he did, Rock Island Books, and he dates creation date at 4005. And so if that's the case, and my speculation, if Jesus would have died in, would have been born in 5 BC, and that would mean that Jesus was brought into the world exactly 4,000 years from creation. And he's also putting Adam's sin at 3971, and that's almost the exact equivalent to the age of Jesus between birth and death. Jesus being around 33 and a half is the running theory here. And so between creation and the Adam's sin is really close, almost 34 years, almost the exact same thing. And here I'm going to show you a calculator as well. Because when you're dealing with the year 0, you've got to do different math. So I just picked a random date in the fall, October 11th in 5 BC. And then the spring of 30 AD, well, that basically gets you 33 and a half years. So if Jesus was born in 5 BC, he could have died in 30 BC. And I'll go back to my chart here. So my theory is that Jesus would have been born in 5 BC before the new tetrarchs came into place. Why? Because in Matthew 22, verse 22, Joseph feels comfortable enough to come back from Egypt to Israel because Herod the Great died. Okay, so, and if this is the solid dates here, if this is solid, then he wouldn't have come back any earlier. So my speculation is that Jesus was born in 5 BC, lived around 33 and a half years, spring of 30 AD. So again, if Jesus died in 30 AD, okay, that means exactly 2,000 years later would be the potential. It could be the second coming, potentially the second coming in 2030, okay? So 30 AD plus 2,000 years, 2030, 2,000 years. So from creation date, potential creation date, to potential birth date is exactly 4,000 years, 4,005 to 5 BC. That's perfect, okay? And then from crucifixion date to second coming, that's exactly 2,000 years. Fits really nice for me. minus 7 years, Jacob's trouble, wha-bam, 2023. I like it. Let's all admit that there's holes in all these theories. Okay, there's holes in the theories. If you go with 33, there's some issues. If you go with some 30, there's some issues. So it's because we're relying on dating information that may or may not be accurate. So I showed you the 4 BC, which seems to be very definitive of when they all started replacing Herod the Great. And just using biblical logic, okay? Biblical logic. 40 is a big number. 40 is a big number, right? So I like the 30 and the 70. And this whole theme of Judah and the 20 coins in the Old Testament and the 30 coins in the New Testament. You know, Joseph was sold for 20 coins. Jesus was sold for 30. I can't get over that. That's amazing. Judah. And Judah is so connected to so many themes in the Bible. Oh my goodness, there's probably going to be side studies on that. So why would God sell Joseph for 20 and Jesus for 30? Why would he do that? Why would he put 20, 30 in front of us like that? And you know, why would he have an odd number between the cross and the temple? I have a hard time with that from just a biblical pattern perspective, okay? So for right now, my theory is that he died in 30 AD, and that's my guess. And I know that there are some issues with it, but again, there's issues with any other date. So this makes the most biblical sense, and there's enough information there to go, yeah, this is very likely. Either way, guys, we got to be close. We got to be close to the departure. So enter into relationship with Jesus Christ. I have salvation verses in the description box below. Basically, Jesus on the cross was his proposal to you. He just wants you to accept him, accept his perfect blood for your sins, and you will be saved. Romans 10, 9 through 13, please read it. Say I do, guys, say I do, before it's too late. This world's going nuts real fast. All right, see you in the clouds. One day closer. Go, Jesus, go. Adios.